Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Inspirate Business, where we are to inspire, to empower, and to enlighten you. And as you know, each week we have somebody very special on our red hot couch, somebody that I've been trying to get for a long time. A name that is synonymous with football and football in South Africa, football on the continent, a family that has a rich history in this beautiful game, they call it. Welcome to the Inspirate Business Show, none other than Mohamed Bhamjee.
Assalamu alaikum, Yusuf. Thanks for having me. I know it's been a long time, but I'm here and I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And as I said, you know, Mohamed is somebody that I know for a long time. We have a link. He was actually like a second father to my son, and amongst many other youngsters who you've reared. I know my son came in at the age of 5, I think, a long time back. He's now 22, so you can just imagine. But you know, Mohammed, you have a passion for football, and football runs in your family. Now we're going to talk a lot about football, and I mean it's so coincidental, although there's no such thing as coincidence in Islam, but it's just serendipity that we have you on the eve of South Africa playing against Nigeria tonight in the AFCON uh, in Ivory Coast at the moment, right? So we're going to talk about football and South African football and some of the challenges and also your experience in football. But I want to understand Mohamed Bhamjee, right? And you know your history. So you grew up where?
Oh, sure. I grew up, I was born in Fortsburg.
Right.
Okay. People always ask how long I've been in football. I say from the day I opened my eyes. That's all we knew. I was blessed to be born in a football home. I was blessed to be born with leadership like my late dad. So all I knew was football from Monday to the weekend. So yeah, we brought up in Fortsburg. I think we moved to Mayfair when I was around 13 years old, and I stayed in Mayfair for more than 20 some odd years. And the last 12 years of my life, I've been in Northcliffe. Yeah, but it's all started in the streets of Fortsburg.
Now you say, you know, we talk about your late dad, and may Allah grant him Jannatul Firdaus. I mean, he was an icon, right? When we talk of South African football, you know, just this famous stadium, the Calabash, they call it now, that is synonymous with Abdul Bhamjee. And you as a child would go to the stadium with him, right? When he had those 100,000 people that he'd bring in to a game. And this was the days way before social media, way before all the fancy marketing and all of that. This was direct marketing on SABC, right?
Yeah, I think before even the Calabash, I was a youngster going to him to stadiums like George Koch, the old Kings Park Stadium, the old Orlando Stadium, Witsmil Park. You know, be packed on a Friday night, and you're right in saying that these stadiums by 12, 1 o'clock was already to capacity, you know, and very incident free. And there's one secret he always had is the love for the people. He gave the people what they want. He entertained them, and everything he did was, you know, I always play an interview on my WhatsApp status. What he said, he says that whatever I do for the people. The day the people don't want me here is the day I'll leave, and that's what made his journey so successful. That everything was from his heart, and everything was for the benefit of South African football and for the people of South Africa, and that's why people flock to the stadiums.
And you know, what I feel, and this comes out strongly, is that it's almost as if, you know, you are continuing, and that's what drives you, is his legacy.
Yeah, I think if you know me, and I think you know me well, and I think people know me well, is that a lot of people ask me that you've been through so much disappointments in your life in football, but what keeps you going? And a lot of people have thrown in the towel a long time, and I said, I think it's my father's on my shoulder. the legacy he's built, and what he fought for, and what he always believed South African football would be. That keeps me going. And I said, it's something, and he always taught me, is giving up is the easy part. Sometimes your dreams feel so far away, and the day you give up, you don't realize how close you are to that dream. And it's his, and you're 100% spot on. It's that the drive and that passion, that legacy of his that keeps me going. And I think every time I step onto a football training field, playing field, whatever it is, I know I'm stepping with his name and him on my shoulders.
And of course, you are amongst how many siblings?
We three.
Three,
yeah.
And all brothers.
Yeah, two brothers, and I have a sister also. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So and you the one that's continuing in the sporting field, right?
Yeah. Yes. I'm still in the sporting field. I've been the only one that basically followed his legacy in the game. I was fortunate enough to play professional football. I was fortunate enough to play for the junior national teams. I was fortunate enough to be part of this industry, and still am. So, and I think I'm blessed to still be part of this industry.
I want to talk a little bit about that. You went and became a professional footballer.
Yeah.
And who did you play for?
Look, Joe, the journey started, like I say, from a very young age. And I'll never forget when I was around 8, 9 years old, and I told my father I want to play football. And he said, no problem, you can play football, but you got to play it in a mixed environment. You can't play it in your community. You got to go and learn to mix with other people. And I remember we started a team called Mayfair United, where we were three Muslim boys, and the balance of the team came from Kagiso, the township near Azar, where they used to come and play every weekend. And we played in the Southern Transvaal League that time. Later in life, at that moment, I didn't realize why would you want me to mix? What is the issue, And so I played my first footballing journeys at a team called Mayfair United. And then when I was 11, 12 years old, I moved to Wits Juniors. And Wits Juniors obviously was multicultural. It was one of the Wits was at that time was the only clubs in the country that had development and a PSL structure. And Wits Juniors, a lot of talented and professional footballers came from there. And I think that's when the journey now started getting a bit more serious, where from there I made the part into the national under 17, into the national under 20. And at about 16 years old, I moved to the Kaizer Chiefs development. At that time, Chiefs only had under 17 and under 19. But I was training with the first team already at 16. They used to train at George Koch or at Rand Stadium.
So this was the days before Naturina.
This was the days before. I think Naturina was just giving birth that time, And then I realized that at 17, 18, I was in the national under 20 team, but I also realized that breaking into that Chiefs first team was going to be very, very tough when you're coming up against players like your Dr. Kumalo, your Fadi Matidas, and the names are endless,
And you played with these guys?
I played under them, because they were much older. I played under them. And now when you look at that team and your shoes shows, and you say, it's a very difficult team to break in. And that's when I made the move to Swallows. I made my debut at Swallows at 18 years old. It was, that time Swallows was owned by the late Pain Chabedi and Chico Twala and Mike Mangena. And they gave me my debut against Cape Town Spurs. I'll never forget it, in Venda. We 1-0 down against the Cape Town Spurs team that had just won the league with Andre Arendse, Sean Bartlett, David Mudise. My familiar face who played with me in the national team was Matthew. And I was 1-0 down. We came on. I scored the winner to make it.
Talk about Matthew Booth.
Matthew Booth was playing for Cape Town Spurs that time. And that was my first journey at Swallows. And then from there, the journey continued to
And the position you played?
In the national teams and in Swallows, I played as a striker.
Okay.
And then the journey, obviously, our development structures were very different those days. It wasn't like it is now, where kids are taught properly and they're training 4 or 5 times a week. So even when we made professional, obviously there was a lot of flaws in our games. Everything was just instinctive. But we're getting the job done. And then after I left Swallows, I moved on to Manning Rangers. I got the call from Mr. Afzal Khan and Gordon Ingerson at that time. They just had won the inaugural Premier League.
So this moved you to Maritzburg?
To Durban.
Okay.
To Durban. I played at Manning Rangers for about just over a year, a season. tough to break into the team. I played a few games, but obviously the style of football that Gordon wanted and what I brought was very different. Only later in my coaching life, I realized why the coach was doing that. You know, when you play, you don't realize it, and you make those mistakes. And then when Afzal Khan left Manning Rangers, he took me on to Santos with him.
And then you moved to Cape Town.
I moved to Cape Town. I spent more than a year in Cape Town with Santos, and then coming back home. And I moved to Sundowns. My father had unfortunately a brain tumor that time. You know, when he had that incident, and I moved back to Joburg, and Sundowns took me. That time, the coach was Clemens Westhoff. Sundowns was owned by Natasha Chiklas.
Yes.
And I always tell people when Sundowns took me at the age of 23, Clemens Westhoff and then Ted Dimitro was the first time in my life at 23 I started seeing proper football coaching. That I admire, that I liked. And that, I think, now took me to the journey of coaching. To sit, and I always used to say to myself that at 22, 23, the coaching I saw then, imagine I saw it at 10 or 12 or 13 years old. And that was one of the reasons I said I started going into the coaching already to learn more.
So we want to talk, wow, this is got such an illustrious history in South African football, and this transition from a football player playing for some of the top teams to coaching. But before that, I also want to understand your foray into the national team and that experience immediately after the break. Welcome back to Inspirate Business, and on our red hot couch, looking very suave, Mr. Mohamed Bhamjee, better known to many as Jive. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, and what an intriguing story. It's so commendable. It's so inspiring to have somebody of this caliber here. Rich history in South African football, a family that has rich history just in terms of management. I mean, synonymous with football. His late father, Abdul Bhamjee, also a great cricketer he was. Yeah. I know recently I was actually at the Wanderers and they were talking about him, a great opening batsman, and more so they said a great captain. And that's what you need, right? And I mean, you're so fortunate to have somebody of that caliber.
You know, Joe, I always say that leaders are not made in a classroom, and leaders are born. And I'm fortunate enough to be born in a house of leadership. And I'm fortunate enough, even when my dad had his, big meetings, or the people that surrounded me as a youngster, you learn from these people, and these are qualities that I always say you cannot get in any classroom. You cannot get you learn, and you are blessed to be part of these people, and you just become a sponge, and you pick up from them. And only later in your life you realize what type of stuff you learn.
I mean, you mentioning names. I mean, you played for some of the top teams of this country. I mean, you talk, Swallows, you talk, Chiefs, Wits, where you were reared, Santos, Manning Rangers, and with some of the greats you played against. Now, you also said you made the national team, under 17 and under 20.
Yeah. Under 17 was I was fortunate enough to play for more than 2 years in this because they took me at 15. Making the under 17 national team that time was very different from what it is now. You had to get through your district, your local district, from there into the province. And then from there, you have a big national tournament where you have all your provinces coming together. So you have more than 1,000 players, maybe 500 or 1,000 players there, and they select 22. I'll never forget our first selection was done in the Vaal, where we got selected. The Trotmoloto was the coach of that team. He selected the team, and a week later we had to report to camp to play our first COSAFA under 17. This is time now where we're coming out of apartheid. We had no international experience at all, zero, and we went on to win the COSAFA. Here at Orlando Stadium. We beat Mozambique in the final, but we came up against your Zambias, your Zimbabwe's, all the Southern African countries.
Some of the players that played with you?
I think the familiar names, I mean, Delron Barkley was our captain. Junaid Hartley, Anthony Christians. We had Wayne Roberts, great goalkeeper from Cape Town Spurs. We had Vaughan Les from Hellenic. We had Japi Motali from SuperSport now. So, and we had if you look at the team, it was, those days, they used to call it the Rainbow Nation, you know, and we had it all, you know. And that similar team now moved on to Sheikh Mashaba's under 20 team. Under 20 team in 97. We were the first under 20 team to qualify for the AFCON. AFCON under 20. And I always tell people the story. Our first game was Ivory Coast. And in that under 20 now we had two big players joining us in Benny McCarthy and Matthew Booth. Benny McCarthy got drafted into our under 20, and I'll never forget our first game against Ivory Coast.
Where did you guys play?
In Morocco. The tournament was in Morocco. Our first game against Ivory Coast was against the big stars of Ivory Coast, your Drogba's, your Zakora's, your.
So you played against Didier Drogba.
He went on to play for Feyenoord. Solomon Kalou was the striker of the team, and I think he was the leading striker. Because after that tournament, he went on to play for Feyenoord. Then he went on to play for Ajax. We beat them in the first game 1-0.
Oh, you beat
we beat Ivory Coast 1-0. Benny scored the goal. We went all the way to the final, and we lost to Morocco in the final. And that took us to the World Cup in Malaysia, under 20 World Cup, where obviously we didn't do that well. But the experience to get to the World Cup in Malaysia was
I can just imagine.
And this you're taking kids that have never ever played international football before. We've never seen the world, and to compete against teams like that was
some of the memorable moments of that World Cup in Malaysia. Who did you play against?
In Malaysia, in that tournament, Michael Owen won I think the highest goal scorer. It was the French team of Thierry Henry. It was the time Junaid also got signed for Lens.
Did you guys play against?
We played against France. Yeah, they beat us. So as I say, the tournament wasn't that successful in the sense of results, but I think to get us there was a great achievement. And then
if you guys played against the likes of Thierry Henry
and Michael Owen from England. He won highest goal scorer in the tournament. And then from that team, a few of the boys got promoted to. Then Sheikh Mashaba moved to the under 23, and the famous victory from that under 23 team was when they beat Brazil in the Olympics. I don't know if you remember that time with Ronaldinho and him. So a bit of that under 20 squad moved on. So what I'm trying to get is, if you look at a lot of those players started at under 17, so there was continuity, and obviously they went on to play in the Olympics against Brazil and beat Brazil that time. Quinton Fortune scored the goal. Yes. So yeah.
So the question then is, okay, you're now a coach, right? Yeah. Maybe for people watching, youngsters that are there, they all have ambitions. Some make it. We got Lyle Foster now that has really broken through. I remember as a junior team, your junior team with my son playing and so on, they played against Lyle. And only a couple of years later, Lyle is now in the Premier League earning big money and whatever. So everybody wants that. Yeah. But your experience, you played football at the highest level, and then you also had to then transition into coaching, right?
Yeah. Look,
what does it take?
To make it into football it is very tough. I think as we go into the game, there's a lot that happens, and I always tell people in football there's a lot more disappointments than success. And I think how we handle those disappointments is very important. And when you play in the game and you're a youngster, and if you don't have a good support structure around you, it's very easy to go on the wrong path. And we've seen it. We've seen a lot of players, talented at the top players that I've mentioned, go on the wrong path, and we've seen not so talented players end up going further. And I think it's based around a lot of the discipline, the dedication, the will to continue to going, and sacrifice. And sometimes you have to go into areas and zones and places where you're not comfortable. You have to leave your comfort zone. And I think a lot of players don't want to do that. And when they need to do that, and it becomes a bit challenging, the easiest way is to give up, or is to go into another zone. So I always say, maybe becoming a professional might not, it's not something it's easy. It might not be as difficult as maintaining a successful long career. To maintain a successful long career is very, very, very difficult. And I think you only understand it when you're in there, how difficult it is, because so many things around you can stop you. Like, for example, for myself, I had a family at a very young age, and when I came back I played my last international football in Maldives. After Sundowns, I went to Maldives, and when I came back from there, from the stand there. I had to take my kids out of school to go and play there because of and then when I came back, I had to make a decision to say, am I going to keep moving my kids around with a 1 year contract there, 1 year contract there? It might be beneficial to me, it might, but later in life, when I go back, it might affect them. And I always sit and I say, okay, did I make the right decision? And today I must say, shukr to the Almighty, I did, because my kids are successful in the sense of education. They've got degrees, they're stable. And I think keeping them in one school, keeping them disciplined also helps. So I had to maybe also make an unselfish decision to say, do I continue my footballing career and maybe have small contracts all around? Or do I say, okay, this is it, and concentrate on the family?
But look, of course, football is in your blood, so you couldn't leave it, right?
I couldn't leave football.
So you might have stopped your playing career, being unselfish, as you say, but you continued giving back to the game and for the love for the game, right? And I know that passion that you exude when you're on that as a coach. So tell us a little bit about that. How did that foray into the coaching arena? I know you had Josie Stars at one stage.
We first had Mayfair. So look, I think I must also sometimes, you know, when you sit back and you say, as a player, I was also fortunate enough. I won't say fortunate enough, because of certain clubs I played for, they hired and fired a lot of coaches. So I was fortunate enough to play under a lot of coaches, you know. And while playing under these coaches, you take the good and you learn and you learn and you learn. And the bad that doesn't suit you, you put it aside. So I was fortunate enough to play under top coaches. And I learned from those coaches. They're good and they're bad, I put aside. And I said, how can I, because I want to be in football, because I love this game, in a coaching sense, how can I make better young players? What can I do to give back? And when I started the coaching, we started at a club called Mayfair FC, which, you know, we started from. And and there's one thing I always said is, if I'm going to do something as coaching, I'm going to learn how to coach, as you said earlier, with your son, a 5 or 6 year old, and I'm going to learn how to coach a senior. So I understand the different ways of how a child grows. Because sometimes when we coach, we don't realize you can't coach a 6 year old the way you coach a 10 year old. You can't coach a 10 year old the way you coach a 15 year old. And I had to learn it the hard way. We had this club, we had a senior team, we had juniors. And eventually, as the years went, you learned. I had to go into coaching education. And then so I learned, how can I say it? I learned from mistakes. I learned on the field. And I've been coaching now almost 15 years. And you're still not perfect. You know, yes, you've got all your qualifications, yes, you always got your licenses, but you're learning every single day. And I'm fortunate enough, that journey that I took starting at Mayfair FC, growing up, has put me in where I am today.
So your qualifications, what do you have?
Today I hold the CAF A license, which is the highest qualification in Africa. I think there's one high which is called the CAF Pro, which I think only Coach Pitso Mosemane has because of winning the Champions League. But CAF A currently is the highest.
Wow. We've already come to the end of this segment. We can carry on forever. I mean, it's just so, it's such a lot of passion, you know, and this is somebody, as we always get somebody with 10,000 hours. He's got a lot more than 10,000. He said 15 years of coaching, plus all the football, and played on the highest level against some of the best in the world. I want to understand after the break a little bit more now about this coaching and what you're doing currently. We'll catch you immediately after the break. Welcome back to Inspirate Business, where we're here to inspire, to empower, and to enlighten you. And we have the famous Mohamed Bhamjee, son of the late Abdul Bhamjee, synonymous with football in South Africa on a global stage. Your uncle as well was involved with FIFA. Right, your dad's brother.
My dad's younger brother.
He was one of the
executive members of FIFA. He was the COSAFA president, and he was the Botswana president of football, and he was also the COSAFA president at one stage.
Yes. So it's in your blood, right? And you know, Mohamed's been sharing with us, having played with some of the likes of Didier Drogba's, Thierry Henry's, worked under some of the leading coaches, and now is a top African coach. What you said, the CAF 1 license.
CAF A license.
CAF A license. So you currently, what do you do as a coach, right? You said you started Mayfair FC, then you had a few teams, junior teams, right? But right now, your role is with a brand again that is an international brand and synonymous with the continent. You are a coach with Kaiser Chiefs.
Kaiser Chiefs Development, yes.
Right. So tell us a little bit about that.
Look, I joined the Kaiser Chiefs family in the development about just almost a year ago. Currently the head coach of the under 13 and I assist with the under 15. But it's a place for me that's home.
When you played for Kaiser Chiefs.
I played, and I mean, I think supporting them from a young age and being to all the games. And I always tell people I used to cry when they used to lose. So when I walked in there a year ago, I was just coming back home. You know, I never felt out of place. So
I'm a Kosi for life.
Yeah. Right? So I've been there almost a year, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm totally blessed to be there. To be part of this journey that maybe develop the future stars of Kaiser Chiefs. And it starts, I always say, your stars don't start at under 19 or at senior level. It starts what you bring into the door at under 13. Because if you lay the proper foundation, it's easier for the rest to follow.
And you had an excellent season, right?
Yeah.
You took the club a year ago.
I took the club
under 13 team.
Yeah.
And just tell us a little bit about it. I know you won.
Yeah, so we've won in whatever was out to offer in the under 13 division last year. We cleaned up everything.
Wow.
So we won the treble. And I think one of the most impressive things was it's the first time in the GDL, Gauteng Development League, where a team went a season unbeaten. And I think that inspired me from Arsene Wenger's Arsenal Invincibles.
Of course. I was waiting for that one. you couldn't resist. We won't go into that now. As painful as that is, being a Man United fan, but we won't go there now. We're talking African football and local football. Let's leave that out.
So I think that was a great achievement. And obviously with great achievements, when we go into the new season, which is now, there's more pressure on you because everyone wants to beat you. And I think when you involve with a brand like Kaiser Chiefs, everyone wants to beat you. So it's you know what you're getting yourself into, and we keep going, and I think we just keep working hard. And
so the results, you said you went unbeaten.
Yeah, full season unbeaten. So we played 18 teams, so it's 36 games. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's
about 34 to 36 games, and
impressive.
that's not including our cup run. So in total, you have more than 40 games unbeaten, including the cup run.
Now tell me a little bit about coaching, right? And we want to explore this. I mean, it's. I mean, you look at football and you look at some of the guys. We were talking a little bit about. I mean, we joked around about United and so on. But you look at a guy like Erik ten Hag, right? He comes out of the Dutch league. He's doing so well. He comes to United and he's struggling.
Yeah.
You get a guy like Mourinho, does so well at one stage, and now seems to be waning now, right?
Right.
It's not. You look at Jurgen Klopp now, saying he's getting drained out, right? He's getting washed out because it's just too hectic. It's not an easy job.
No, it's not. And I think a lot of people don't realize it's tough. It's tough. And I always say, no matter what division you coach, it's tough. People always remember the winners. They never remember when you lose. So when you're winning, it's all good. And I think it's not easy because it's so why I say it's not easy because sometimes your family gets affected because everything is just the game. So when you come home, you hardly even have time to sit with your family. You sitting and trying to prepare the next training session, trying to prepare the next game to win. So it affects you in everything. It's not an easy job, and but like I said, because of the love, because of the passion, it's something that, and maybe it's something that keeps us young and keeps us going, you know. But obviously, the different levels you coach. I mean, when you talk about the Jurgen Klopps of this world, and I think at that level, it's all about managing players properly. In a development level, it's more about teaching players the right things to do. But at any level, it's not easy, and you have different challenges that come to you. It's just how you deal with it.
Yeah, and of course, it becomes a thin line between like that being soft with certain players at certain times, and then sometimes being extremely disciplinarian. That must be quite a challenge as well.
Look, it is, but in my coaching life, and I think you mentioned it earlier with the kids I've coached, and I'm fortunate enough that I always put the right values into them, and I learned that from my career that when you're coaching is if you coach 100 kids, if you make 2 or 3 or even one professional from that 100, you are lucky. But you can make 99 men.
That's
that for me is a shame. You might make one professional, but you can make 99 other men, and that is very important because and I look at life. Football, 35, 36. If you're lucky, if you look after yourself, it stops. But there's still life after that. You still maybe got another average lifespan 70 years. You still got another 35 years of living. You still have to be a father. You still have to be an uncle. You still have to be a role model to your kids. And for me, that is more important. Is what you do when you go down 6 feet. When people stand and they said, it's not about teaching him how he taught me how to pass a ball, but the life skills he taught you, and that you've carried on for the rest of your life. And I think that is challenging. That's what inspires me more, is that when the kids come through you, is when they leave you, what qualities do they leave with?
And that's very, very powerful. I can attest to that. I know you having been a coach of my son, and I look at him and his friends and those boys that were under you, and they talk of, akhlaq, just character. And these boys, I look at it and I hear from other people as well, that all of them, they've got that respect and they've got that discipline. You've instilled those values in them.
So it's something that we started from your Mayfair FC, from your Joey Stars. Still now I carry it on, is that you show respect to elders. And it's a value from home. You greet people. You come to the training pitch, whether you know the person, whether you don't, whether the boy is younger than you, as older, you shake his hand. And whether it's someone that's just cutting the grass or someone that's wearing a suit, doesn't matter. You treat everyone equally and you shake their hand and you show that respect. And these are small things, but later in life, you realize how big it is,
And they're keys to success, right?
Yeah.
Without that, like you said, you can't be a man.
No, you can't.
Right. Yeah. And that is very, very powerful. So your focus this year is on the under 13, but it must be tough, right? Because now you're bringing a whole new bunch of players in. How are you guys doing?
Look, the season will only start next week.
All right.
So we're basically on the process of rebuilding a whole new team, but I think that's fine. We're used to that, and we got some good players coming in, and it's just up to us as coaches, or myself as coaches, to the day they walk out of this door, if they go on to under 15 or 17, is to make them better. I always say as coaches, when a child comes through your door, you must improve him. Whether he's with you for 1 year or he's with you for 6 years, you must leave that place as an improved player and as an improved person. That's our roles and responsibilities.
Now, you as a specialist in football, I want to shift a little bit on a higher level and just talk a little bit about South African football. Right. And we have an amazing run.
Yeah.
We got into now the semi-finals and, playing against Nigeria. How is the health of South African football? There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of money in South African football. Very few players play internationally. There's been also criticism that we haven't done very well, considering that we won the AFCON those years back. Where are we as South Africa in terms of international football?
Okay, it's no secret. In the last few years, we've dropped tremendously. We haven't qualified for the World Cup for a long time. Even the AFCON, we haven't qualified for a long time until now. And it's good to see us in the semi-final. And I always tell people that a good South Africa it's not only now because we're doing well. It's for the future, because the players that are coming up, when scouts look at them, when you want to send them overseas and they ask you where you're from and the name South Africa comes in, it must be like, oh, bring the ball, without even looking, like the way people look at Brazilians. And unfortunately, in the last few years, it's been very difficult to get players abroad because how poor our national team was doing, So I'm happy for the achievement, and I'm happy and I'm hoping that we can do well and maybe beat Nigeria and go on to win the AFCON, because it will not only be good for the current bunch of players, but for the future generation also. And I think it's something that is needed and something that we need. It hasn't happened for us in a very long time. So let's hope we can do it.
Okay, great. We've come to the end of this segment, talking football and all things football, talking South Africa. Very excitingly, we in the AFCON semi-finals, and we're talking to Mohamed Bhamjee, better known as Jive. And after the break, when we come to the last segment, I want to now talk about the future for you personally and, for people that want to get involved in football. There's some key advice for them immediately after the break. You are watching Inspirate Business, and we talking all things football with Mohamed Bhamjee, and he has what a illustrious career, having been a footballer, played on the highest level in a family of football genes. The famous Abdul Bhamjee's son, may Allah grant him Jannatul Firdaus, and then transitioned into coaching. We're talking all about what it takes to be a world-class coach. He had an excellent season. His Kaiser Chiefs under 13 team went unbeaten, took literally every potential competition that was available. And we're also talking about South African football and the health of South African football. Now, this is the beautiful game, they call it, right? Everybody wants to be in it. Every parent wants their son to, or daughter these days, because women's football is also very big, wants to get a contract like Cristiano Ronaldo or Neymar or Lyle Foster, right? And I mean, there's big money in the sport. It's, and this is a business show. So some may ask, why are we talking sport? Because this is big business. I mean, Kaiser Chiefs as a brand is a world-renowned brand. I mean, you look at the amounts that the players get paid, even in South Africa. I mean, you're getting South Americans, I think in the break you mentioned, that are coming to South Africa because they're getting big contracts. So everybody wants to get into it, but it's not that easy. So as we close the show, advice for people, you got to be realistic, yet you also be a dreamer. What does it take?
Look, I always say it takes a big heart. And to make it in football especially, it's if you're willing to sacrifice, if you're willing to have more disappointments, if you're willing to go through the pain, and I spoke about support structure, and I was blessed to have a very good support structure. My wife and kids have been, and the friends that I've had around have been very, very supportive, So to the parents listening out there, we always make a joke at the club is a lot of parents live their dream of not being professional footballers through their kids.
Yes.
So that's one of the biggest mistakes they make, So let your child be, but encourage him, let him work hard and you must also understand there'll be a lot of challenges, and don't give up on your first challenge. If you have a dream to make it in anything, whether it's football, whether it's, to become a teacher, become a doctor, become a lawyer, you are going to face different challenges. The ability to keep going is what makes it. And that was one of my strongest points is I just kept going. And I just kept going and kept going. And at some stage in my life, and you would know, I felt I've got all my qualifications. I'm one of the first coaches. If I'm not one of I'm one of the only coach to take a GDLB Josie Stars team and qualify them for GDLA in my first season. You remember, no one has done that. I've done everything, but I'm just struggling to break into the big academy teams. And I was so close in giving up, but just the ability to just keep going, and Allah Pak opened these doors. So my advice to the parents is, if your child has a dream, let him keep going. Don't let him give up. And encourage him. All you need is your encouragement, Don't live your dream to your child, but just encourage him to make his dreams come true.
And for somebody, look, there's a lot of people have their own negative views around these things where people feel, no, if you're in South Africa, your chances are very slim. Then you get kids that are then being lured into like academies in Europe. So, and I mean, I know your elder son got a scholarship
in America,
to play in the States. So just some advice for people, right? You got a good youngster that's there. He's maybe in matric. maybe wanting to get an opportunity to go to the Europe or to go to to a European team or academy, or to go to the States, or stay in South Africa, what would be your advice?
Look, my advice is, firstly, don't give up your education.
Mm.
Try and combine it. Yes, it's going to take a lot of your time. Your time management becomes very important. Whether it's football, it's studying, and you might have to give up on the entertainment and the nice life. So that becomes challenging. But if you, wherever you're going, whether you're going to America, whether you're going to Europe, try and incorporate your education with it. So football does come to an end eventually, but at least you have something else to fall back on. So make sure you have both, and both will help you. Like you're talking about my son, he went 5 years to America. When he came back with 5 years of playing overseas experience, 5 years of learning how to become a man overseas, and besides that, coming back with a master's degree in finance. So, all praise to Allah for giving him that opportunity. So I think my advice to parents is, don't neglect the education part. It is very important that they stay in the education part mixed with football, because eventually the all-round person will be much better. And like I'm saying, if you take most of your time into those stuff, your nice times and the other things that can distract you will not be there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a big problem at the moment in the world today, right? We get in our kids that are just getting sidetracked with all frivolous stuff. And so this, what I do find is, when you're focused on something like this, then you get that discipline, and you don't have time even.
You don't have time
to be doing all the other stuff. I mean, the big issues in our communities are drugs, and so you stay away from all of that.
That's what I'm saying. And there's, there's 24 hours in a day. There's enough time to do everything. It's how I always tell our young players, there's enough time to do everything if you manage your time properly, and you take away some of the things that don't need to even be involved in that 24 hours. And eventually your life will be much better. And my advice is also, surround yourself with people with the same ambitions as you. Because when you want to get up 5 o'clock in the morning to go for training, when you want to study extra, the people around you are also doing that. Not when you want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and other people only want to come back from parties at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes,
so surround yourself with people who have similar ambition as you, so you might go in the right path.
And look, that is a bit of a paradox, because if you take footballers and the lives that they live as well, it is a lot around the fancy life. I mean, we're just hearing some footballers that have gone out on drinking binges, and professional footballers. So I mean, I think it's not easy to be a professional footballer as well.
Look, I think anything in life, Yusuf, is that, I always learned, my father used to always tell us is, I can't keep a chain on you. At the end of the day, you have to go and let yourself loose. But if you remember two things, you'll think twice before you do it. One is what religion you are, and two is where you come from. So whether there's a drink there, whether there's drugs, whether there's, those two things will make your mind up in what you're going to do next. Your parents can never watch you 24/7, but those two things can make you decide what you're going to do.
It's so true, and we're so fortunate to have that. Good homes that you come from, and of course, we have this beautiful religion that keeps us away from all the vices. So now, as we close the show, for you as Mohamed Bhamjee, you are at one of the most prestigious clubs in the world. When you talk of the likes of Man United, I have to mention, Real Madrid, Arsenal, of course. I mean, I know I was at a function, international function, and there was the likes of Arsenal chairman, ex-chairman, and when Kaizer Chiefs was mentioned, this is on the level. So, you're at the most prestigious club on the continent. We may not have been doing so well lately, but yes, the brand, and you're very fortunate. So where to for yourself personally? What are your goals? And then, of course, as we part, maybe some key points, for parents out there, for kids that are involved in football, for, even coaches that want to get involved, because I know there's very passionate parents out there that are coaches, some parting words for them.
Look, I'll start with the kids and the coaching before I finish off with my. I think with coaching, if people want to get involved in coaching, go and educate yourself. Don't think of, hey, I just stopped playing, I want to go and coach a senior team. No, start at the bottom. Go and get your coaching license. Go and get your D, your C, your B, your A, and get minutes on the field teaching kids. Because that's where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to make your mistakes. And don't just go out there and do research. And I mean, the world is open now. There's internet, but do the right research and improve yourself, but and go and educate yourself when it comes to coaching. With parents, put your kids in the right development structures. Put your kids in teams where the foundation phase coaching is very good. When I talk about foundation phase, I talk about primary school, under 6 to under 12, where that, for me, that's a very important phase of football, because from 6 to about 13, 14 is where you can instill the technical ability, the beginning of game understanding. From 14, it's the more 14 to about 17, it's the more tactical understanding of the game. And 18 upwards, when you finish school, now it's no more coach. Now it's your what you want to do. Because at 18 you can do everything. You can drive. You can go wherever.
It's more your mind.
It's more your mind.
Yeah.
But the base, put your child in a foundation phase development where he'll have the good foundation. And that carries a long way. To me, Yusuf, I think my next step is I put all my trust in Allah. I don't want to say I want to be the Bafana coach or I put all my trust in Allah. I work hard every single day, whether I'm coaching under 13 or whether I'm coaching under 20, it doesn't matter to me. I work hard every single day. And whatever door Allah has for me to open, and I know when He opens it, it's the right time for me to enter that door.
And I know one thing, I get goosebumps when you say it. You always say to the kids as well, I know this. I've seen it in some of your social media posts as well. Always outwork your opponent.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the show. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on behalf of the Inspirate Business Show. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors. For those of you that have got budding youngsters, I hope you hold on to these pearls of wisdom that this gentleman, a specialist in this field, is sharing with us. And we wish you all the best for your children in terms of their futures and for you as well, Mohamed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.